joy to be in the room with the piano and feel that music. Thank you, Annette. Good morning, and welcome to this Humboldt Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. We are an open-minded, open-hearted spiritual home for everyone who values and accepts all people and cares for all life. Members of our fellowship share ministry with our minister, Peter Faraday, who will be here next week in the pulpit. I'm Bonnie MacGregor, and along with Laura Phelan-Shahin and Montana Caouette will be the worship leaders this morning for this service. So whether in person, oh how wonderful, or online at Zoom in your own homes, we're so very glad that you're here in this extended community of shared seekers, I would say. And though it's not raining yet, we were prepared in case it would. And may this invite the rain, which is scheduled to come for the rest of the week. Wouldn't that be wonderful? So we acknowledge, as we do each week, that we are very well aware that we are on the ancestral land of the Wiyot people, which was unseated. And the best we can do is to be the best stewards we can to live in respect and reciprocity with this land. To those here, thank you for doing your part by keeping each other safe, by keeping our masks on and staying socially distanced. It is so hard to do that when you see someone you love. But please do that while we're in here, and then as you leave in the foyer and go on outside. So do remember to keep that safety in mind. And unfortunately, because we are inside and singing is that wonderful thing that brings the breath up through the heart and out through our mouths, we cannot sing, even though we're going to be having the song Spirit of Life come up, and I'll introduce that at the time. So you're welcome to hum and follow along with your minds and hearts. I wanted to ask if anybody here is going in the direction of Elk River after the service, because Peggy Ho would need a ride. And if we can offer that to her, then her husband can go home. And one last reminder, there is an important congregational meeting at 1 o'clock. It'll be on Zoom for everyone. So it is our intention to end the service in time for those who are here to go home, and for those of you who are at home to get up and move around. The link to that service is different than this one. And you can find it in the weekly that was sent out on Thursday, okay? So look for that link. It's an important congregational meeting. So now, let us settle ourselves here into this sacred space as I invite the bell to sound. Before I light the chalice, I want to give a little bit of an introduction to this day, because this topic of whether there is a God and whether we can have a relationship with it is like touching the third rail on BART in San Francisco. It's where the electricity is. And we want you to be able to relax and realize that this service is not an intellectual exploration about the proofs for the existence of God, nor is it an attempt to convince anybody one way or another of the eminent truth of anything. In fact, I've found that convincing myself of anything intellectual doesn't really do much good when I'm in a moment of crisis or pain or grief. So this exploration will be more sharing experiential encounters and learned teachings from them. This is not unlike the difference between reading a romance novel or research about the part of the brain that registered its love, rather than stepping into that magnetic portal, into the attraction and vulnerability of feeling what it's truly like there between you and another you are drawn to. Or in this world, the proof becomes not only what you two walk with and are reciprocal with, but it's a moment by moment exploration every day. It's the kind of exploration that it's like the ever never sure knowing that is love. Another analogy would be the difference between watching nature programs on TV or getting in your car and driving along the river, or getting out of the car and stepping onto the path and going up the mountain and smelling the aroma of the trees and feeling the silence and the stillness and knowing your vulnerability there as this one small creature among all that's going on. And then you see the lake and you dive into that lake in the granite bowl, and you turn over and you look at the sky, and there you are between earth and sky, and you feel the exhilaration of being alive and being part of nature. So that's what we're talking about this morning, not an intellectual discussion. And the question that Laura, Montana, and I will be addressing is, can we actually cultivate a relationship with that source, that spirit of life, and what has it been like for us? So I hope that will set the mood for the morning rather than feeling like you have to be on guard. So now, each Sunday, we light a chalice, and it's a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. Our words today are adopted from a reading in Singing the Living Tradition, our hymnal. It's number 434. It's a kind of invocation. Sacred Spirit of our radically interconnected existence and our deeply intertwined lives, help us to remember here our highest aspiration. May we know once again that we are not isolated beings, but related in mystery and miracle to the universe, to the communion of all life, and to each other. In kindling our chalice flame, we invoke and invite into this space the divine light of wisdom, the sacred fire of justice and compassion, and dedicate ourselves anew to bringing our fullest gifts of love and service to the altar of humanity. Blessed be, and amen. Now, it is our custom, when a beloved member of our fellowship has died, to pause at this time in our service. And this morning we do so in honor of the memory of Terry Caouette, who died, who died on Wednesday night. Terry was a warm and thoughtful teacher and a longtime member of this congregation. He was involved in the life of this community, especially during the years he and his wife Cindy were raising their daughters, Sierra and Maya, who were an integral part of our younger generation here. I loved serving with him on the Board of Trustees, and he was such a willing and quiet presence, stepping up when he was needed. Terry will be greatly missed, and our thoughts go out to Cindy and Sierra and Maya and Timothy and all his family and close friends. We will no longer hear the sound of his voice, or see the light in his eyes, or feel the touch of his hand. And so we extinguish the flame of our chalice to mark his physical death. Yet his spirit lives on in the many hearts and minds of those he touched on his life's journey. So we light this candle. Oops. So we light this candle to signify that ongoing light. And because he is forever a part of the spirit and fabric of this community he helps sustain, we will relight our chalice to symbolize how his love and influence will go on shining within us. In mystery, we are born. In mystery, we live. And it is in mystery that we will die. Will you please join me now in reaffirming our aspiration, foundational to who we are as a fellowship. You'll find the words in your order of service. May love be the spirit of this fellowship. May the quest for truth be its sacrament and service be its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, and to help one another in fellowship. This is our aspiration. So the title of our service today is Spirit of Life, Come to Me. And it's taken from the hymn that we'll be humming and Annette will be playing this morning, Spirit of Life. And Annette's going to play it through once so we can be reminded of the music. And then as she plays it again, please hum along and I will be reading the words out loud and you will be joining me in your heart. Yes? Okay. So first Annette will play the music. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in our hearts all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand.
Hello. I am Laura Phelan-Shahin, and now is a time set aside especially for the youth in our congregation, parents and caregivers. Okay. I should have stopped and asked if everyone could hear me. Can you hear me now? Okay. Parents and caregivers are welcome to join the children. Anyone who's feeling at heart, young at heart can come down. I invite the kids to come forward now. Hi, Jack. So this is a story called Old Turtle. It's by Douglas Wood, watercolors by Cheng Ki Chi. Once, long ago, yet somehow not so very long ago, when all the animals and rocks and winds and waters and trees and birds and fish and all the beings of the world could speak and understand one another. There began an argument. It began softly at first, quiet as the first breeze that whispered, "He is a wind who is never still." Quiet as the stone answered, "He is a great rock that never moves." Gentle as the mountain that rumbled, God is a snowy peak high above the clouds. And the fish in the ocean that answered, God is a swimmer in the dark blue depths of the sea. "No," said the star, "God is a twinkling and a shining far, far away." "No," replied the ant, "God is a sound and a smell and a feeling who is very, very close." "God," said the antelope, "is a runner, swift and free, who loves to leap and race with the wind." "She is a great tree," murmured the willow, "a part of the world, always growing and always giving." "You are wrong," argued the island. "God is separate and apart. God is like the shining sun far above all things," said the blue sky. "No, he is a river who flows through the very heart of things," thundered the waterfall. "She is a hunter," roared the lion. "God is gentle," chirped the robin. "He is powerful," growled the bear. An argument grew louder and louder and louder. "Stop!" A new voice spoke. It rumbled loudly like thunder, and it whispered softly like butterfly sneezes. The voice seemed to come from, Old Turtle. Now, Old Turtle hardly ever said anything, and certainly never argued about things like God. But now Old Turtle began to speak. "God is indeed deep," she said to the fish in the sea, "and much higher than high," she told the mountains. "He is swift and free as the wind, and still and solid as a great rock," she said to the breezes and stones. "She is the life of the world," Turtle said to the willow, "always close by, yet beyond the farthest twinkling light," she told the ant and the star. "God is gentle and powerful, above all things and within all things. God is all that we dream of and all that we seek," said Old Turtle, "all that we come from and all that we can find. God is." Old Turtle had never said so much before. All the beings of the world were surprised and became very quiet. The old turtle had one more thing to say. There will soon be a new family of beings in the world, she said, and they will be strange and wonderful. They will be reminders of all that God is. They will come in many colors and shapes, with different faces and different ways of speaking. Their thoughts will soar to the stars, but their feet will walk the earth. They will possess many powers. They will be strong, yet tender, a message of love from God to the earth, and a prayer from the earth back to God. And the people came. All the people. But the people forgot. They forgot that they were a message of love and a prayer from the earth. And they began to argue about who knew God and who did not, and where God was and was not, and whether God was or was not. And often the people misused their powers and hurt one another. And they hurt the earth until finally even the forest began to die. And the rivers and the oceans and the plants and the animals and the earth itself, because the people could not remember who they were or where God was, until one day came a voice like the growling of thunder, but soft as a butterfly sneeze. Please stop. The voice seemed to come from the mountain who rumbled, sometimes I see God swimming in the dark blue depths of the sea. And from the ocean who sighed, he is often among the snow-capped peaks reflecting the sun. From the stone who said, I sometimes feel her breath as she blows by. And from the breeze who whispered, I feel his still presence as I dance among the rocks. And the star said, God is very close. And the island said, his love touches everything. And after a long, lonesome, and scary time, the people listened and began to hear and to see God in one another. And in the beauty of all the earth. And old turtle smiled. And so did God. Thank you. Go that way. Hi, I'm back. So this is my reflection on cultivating a relationship with the divine. Can you all hear me? Okay. I've been afraid of the dark most of my life. Now the sparkling light comes drifting down, and I'm only able to notice it because I stand in the dark. I stand in the dark, understanding that the divine is the dark, and I am too. What now? It's an ever-changing, unfolding path. The universe is miraculous when I start to listen, and she speaks to me in ways I find most fun, most heart palpitating, most interesting, the ways that make me feel most alive. The universe talks to me through shout singing the lyrics to Galileo by the Indigo Girls, dancing in the backyard to a song about going the long way with my family, and through an old black dog running into the room I'm sitting in just after I finished telling a sacred story about a wise old woman and her old black dog. The universe conspires to help me unfold on my path, the path that makes my soul sing. Once, long ago, I saw myself as an atheist. I was sick. It was a sickness for me. For some, including my husband, being an atheist is the true path for them. For me, I was trying to be someone else. I was trying to be hard towards the world by keeping my walls up to the universe, a scowl on my face, and denying the spirit of my soul, and instead trying to fill that hole by pouring spirits down my throat. That did not work well. And some wise people told me to make up a god until I could believe in something. So I started to believe in a river. Flo, I called her. She reminded me that when I try to control things, it's as if I'm trying to control my place in the river, and it takes all of my energy to stay in the place I think that I should be. But if I can let go and trust the river, I can dance and swim with her and end up in beautiful places I've never imagined before. I've held on to this sense of the divine for a long time until recently. I still believe this about the oneness of us, but it has evolved. I've noticed that the more energy I put into my relationship with the divine, the more I see the divine in the coolest ways. I've noticed over the years, when I get distracted and consumed by the day-to-day stress of this mundane but precious life, my sense of the divine gets so distant and abstract, it almost becomes an intellectual exercise. The more energy and practices I put into nurturing this divine relationship, the more alive and connected I feel to the interconnectedness of all natural beings. This made me think about what goes into healthy relationships in general. I know that it's important within a healthy relationship to have a give and take. You've got to put energy and time into relationships to keep them healthy and alive. So I got to thinking, could what's important within human relationships also be important in developing a relationship with the divine? So I looked up on the trusty old Psychology Today website, what exactly are the traits of a healthy friendship? They had an answer for me. Here are the 9 traits, or here are 9 traits, I don't know if they're the traits, to a healthy relationship. 1, you make time for one another. 2, you listen to one another. 3, you seek one another's help. 4, you respect one another. 5, you want to share with one another. 6, you enjoy spending time together. 7, you feel connected. 8, you support and feel supported. And 9, you can ask for forgiveness and you can forgive. So I looked at this list and I was like, oh no, I've been a really bad friend to God. And in my past, a really, really bad friend. Upon some reflection, I have realized that I'm ever evolving and I'm becoming a better and better friend all the time. The amazing thing, the divine shows up more and more the more I put in, the more I feel connected. So in the end, I'd like to leave you with 3 practices I do to stay connected to the divine. 1, I have a daily meditation practice. 2, I belong to a spiritual community. Just looking at you guys. And 3, I have a spiritual friend that I talk to regularly. After reflecting on the traits of a healthy friendship, I think these practices help me meet these traits. Through meditating, being part of a spiritual community, and having a spiritual friend that I talk to regularly, I listen, I seek help and help, I respect, I want to share, I enjoy spending time with you all, I feel connected, I try to support and receive support, and when needed, I forgive and I can ask for forgiveness. Thank you all for being part of my path to a deeper and healthier connection to the divine. So I'm going to transition into joys and concerns, but I would just like to take 3 breaths together before I make that transition. Thank you. Okay. We are a welcoming congregation and intend that every person who joins us feels seen and held in this sacred space. One way we do this is by honoring any joys or concerns we carry in our hearts and spirits. One at a time, those who wish to share may come forward and take a pebble or a few from the bowl on the stand right there. Then step to the microphone, lower your mask, state your name and a brief joy or concern, and then drop your pebbles in the bowl of water. The ripples formed represent how our cares and prayers move out from this community into the world, touching others. This is not a time for announcements, but rather an opportunity to share from your heart and be held in compassion and or celebration. You can also drop 1 or more pebbles and not say anything, but just spend a few moments with your thoughts or prayers. Also, if this is your first time with us, if you feel comfortable doing so, we invite you to come up here, share your name, and a little about who you are and what brings you here today. You can also input this online and we'll share it here. Scarlett will share it. Once again, take 1 or more pebbles, share verbally if you care to, then drop your pebbles, and so we begin. You can start right over here.
Good morning, I'm Roy King. I want to express my gratitude to the congregation for your thoughts and prayers for my father. I was up here 3 or 4 weeks ago and mentioned that he was in the hospital and having abdominal surgery. He did have the surgery and he does have colon cancer, but doing well. He's at home. He no longer has 24/7 care. And his spirits are just uplifted, and it makes me feel really good, and I appreciate all your support. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sally. As some of you know, my good friend Al is in the hospital with Guillain-Barré syndrome. He's in Santa Rosa. He's been on and off a ventilator for 2 weeks, and he's partially paralyzed. Those things are starting to improve very gradually, but the doctors are still not totally sure what's going on. So I ask for your thoughts and prayers for Al. And this is for the family of Terry Kopp. who passed away this last week.
My name's Joanne, and I have a blue marble for planet Earth, but I'd also like to drop it in memory of a young Black man, David Josiah Lawson, and his beautiful God-loving mother, Charmaine, who I was with on Friday, remembering both David and Corey Clark, who have been murdered in this community, and it's still not brought to justice. But I'd also like to drop it very much for two old men, old white men, Dan Rather and William Shatner, who have come to be wide-eyed and tearful about what is happening on our planet. And I'm in gratitude for their speaking up about it.
This is a super stone. I'm offering this up to my. We can't hear you, John. Okay, can't. Okay, oh wow, it's here. So lucky to have her. I went to Stanford University Hospital over the week, Friday and Saturday and Sunday, or actually came back. Thursday, Friday. Anyway, I wanted to let you know that John Schaefer did a wonderful job with me all the time. And I was grateful because we did find out that we got the thing I needed for my chest. And I'm gonna let my wife talk more than I am. She's a bossy lady. But anyway, my gratitude so much for the fellowship to be in here so that John and I could be together. Veterans for Peace, we were also a member of. So anyway, with gratitude and thankfulness.
My name is Darcy Macklin. I've been here a long time. And I see many familiar faces, the warmth of which really endears me greatly. John was fortunate enough to get an angel flight over the bay, over to the, a word escaped me. Okay, to the medical center there, and the same staff that had helped to check it a year ago was there checking him, and I could talk to them at the very end. John Schaefer was there with his cell phone. I bet he's got it on his cell phone, and they gave John a report of what the effect was about it, which should be very good. He was losing his memory, and that was why he had to get there to get the Inspire handheld updated so that he could survive. And he did, and he flew there in the first place by an angel pilot. You need to know about angel pilots because you might need one. And you can go through your doctor to get an angel pilot. We did. And then the angel pilot also took him home, a different angel pilot. Then, and there are also earth angels, and they sometimes help you if you don't have somebody like John Schaefer, who is a wonderful angel. Thank you very much.
I'm Pat McCutcheon. I'm a member of the Friday Poets, and another member of the Friday Poets, Laurel Bussey, was helping yesterday with Black Lives Matter banner in Eureka. She has a wheeled cart that she sits in. It rolled off and tipped over. She fell and hit her head and had to go to St. Joseph's. Sina and David helped her get there. She's home now, has a bump on her head, and we hope she'll be back at Friday Poets on Friday. And we're glad it wasn't worse. Laurel Bussey.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here. I haven't been here in a while. My name is Alyssa. I used to teach RE here for first through third grade. It's good to see everybody. I can't hear you, Alyssa, and I'd like to hear you. I said my name is Alyssa. Can you hear me? How about now? How about now? Yeah. I used to teach RE first through third grade. It's really good to see everybody again. And I've been finding joys in my community here, and surrendering to what my place can look like in that. And a joy in accepting things will always come up in life and things will stress me out and be hard on the nervous system. And I'm holding an anchor to turning with the unravelings as life unravels for me in whichever way it does. I guess that's kind of part of the sorrows. Things come up that are unpredictable. And my body can like spike in anxiety, but I'm learning to come home to myself and accept and move through that. And yesterday, my parents' good friend, Modi, I think he was about 78, he passed away and followed his wife, Christine, who left earlier this year, and they're my parents' good friends. So a bit of sorrow, but joy too. So for Modi.
I have for you here the joys and sorrows from Zoom. So from Chip Sharp, thank you to Sina Marino, David Marshak, Laurel Bussey, and Sylvia Shaw for helping with the Huff Black Lives Matter banners yesterday at 4th and B Streets in Eureka, especially to Laurel Bussey, who gave blood for the cause. Glad to hear Laurel is feeling fine today. From Sue Lee Mossman, thank you, Annette, for your wonderful piece today. From Debbie and Greg, sending best wishes for successful surgery on Wednesday and speedy recovery for Jenny Hansen. From Sylvia Shaw, recovery wishes to Laurel Bussey, who fell and injured her head while standing for Black Lives Matter yesterday. Thanks to Sina for driving Laurel to the ER. From Laurel's iPad, thanks to Sina, David, Sylvia, and Chip for taking such good care of me yesterday when my walker threw me. I'm fine now. And from Chip Sharp, remember how Terry always eagerly came forward to do the lion's share of the Halloween festival setup. Can't get used to Terry now. On another note, from Laurel's iPad, happy birthday to Judy Rischel. From Cindy Coop, please drop a few pebbles for me in appreciation for the loving support of the Huff family. Heartfelt thanks to Chip Sharp, Jan Rowan, Jamal Tharp, Michelle Hastings, Sonia, Dave Woody, Sue Mossman for holding us close during the recent passing of my husband, Terry.
Over the past 25 years, Huff has meant a lot to Terry and our family, and he especially loved his men's group, the Halloween Festival, and our Soul Matters groups. From Allison O'Dowd, thinking of my brother who is in the midst of a divorce, and this is a very challenging time for him and my family. From Sina Marino, so happy Laurel had a good scan and is home now and has no headache. From Sonia Woody, feeling immense gratitude for the Coop family, who have shown and modeled for our family what unconditional love looks like through their own lives. We will miss Terry's silliness and his love for his family and nature. We hold in our care all that has been shared today, and know that some things are so large, so fresh, so fragile, that tending to them inwardly seems best for now. We also hold these tender truths in our hearts and drop one last pebble for all unspoken joys and concerns that connect our beloved community. We will follow this with a minute of silence, by which you may add any other unspoken cares or prayers.
Good morning, everyone. I think it's a good idea to repeat what Laura did recently. Let's take a breath and a half. Time is of the essence. Thank you, Bonnie and Laura, for inviting me to speak on my personal experience and connection with the divine. It's given me about 2 weeks. They gave me 2 weeks notice to put this quick talk together. So it's given me 2 weeks to review my life as it relates to connecting with the divine spirit. So even if you guys don't get anything out of this talk, I've gotten so much out of it myself. Let me begin by quoting Anthony M. Tuatsola Johnson, and he credited this to the UUA congregation of Dublin, Ireland, and I've gotten so much of it out of this over the years. Here at Huff, we do not ask what you believe or expect you to think the way we do, only that you try to live a kind and helpful life with the dignity proper to that of a human being. So welcome all who might find our friendship strength and encouragement for daily living. Welcome all who might believe that religion is wider than any sect and deeper than any set of opinions. now I'm just going to throw away my script because Bonnie encouraged us before the service, just kind of wing it and pick up on the spirit of the gathering today. Over the last 2 weeks, I've thought of so many different ways and times that I've connected with the divine over my years. And I'll speak briefly about a couple of those in a minute. But first, a short disclaimer. As I believe you should all know, I was raised in a very Catholic, Roman Catholic family, and I've been through all the Catholic sacraments. And it's waxed and waned over the years. Recently, in the last 2 years especially, it's been waning. I've actually even been in what I would consider a crisis of faith with the Catholic Church, and it's mostly due to the patriarchal system that the Church exists in today, and not the fundamental beliefs that I hold dear. So with that, I would identify as being a Christian at this time, although that too is starting to evolve and continues to evolve, in part due to attending the services here at the fellowship. The other thing I would like to mention is that probably is not going to be the topic of today's, what we're here to speak about. But if anyone is interested in hearing more of my personal story that I'll touch on in these remarks, I'm more than interested and welcome to meeting with you one-on-one at another date and time. So how do I not connect with the divine? Whenever I'm giving a question, in my nature, I always go to the opposite to figure out what, filter it out, what doesn't do that for me. Do I connect through the divine through my cell phone? Absolutely not. It's helpful. I had to look up a couple quotes from the Bible in my preparation, and things that I wasn't really familiar with. So it was helpful, but I felt like instead of, when I asked Siri, can you connect me with the divine? He was, and it's a he on my phone, he was a little bit confused, and gave me that statement. And Peter actually one time, you may be familiar coming from Thousand Oaks, he gave me the phone number and address of a store called The Divine in Thousand Oaks, California, which was closed at the time. So even if I called them, it wasn't going to help me out. So I don't connect through my cell phone. And do I connect through the other church that I've been attending in the recent years, the Catholic Church? Sadly, no, I haven't. Although I will say, to their credit, over my life, and Bonnie mentioned, in times of crisis, we turn to the divine sometimes, or I turn to the divine sometimes in prayer. I'll call it a foxhole prayer, when things really get bad. I've found some comfort in that. And I feel like much as a child craves the attention of its parents, and many times, as I find out with my son, through misbehaving. Like if they're not listening to me when I ask them for something, what's the best way to get their attention? Grabbing the dog and shaking it, or breaking something that's very important to them, then, so I've been misbehaving my whole life. And the divine just keeps coming, back and very patiently holding me and comforting me. And I get that through the Catholic Church when I've gone to the services there, and I don't know why. And that's the whole thing about faith and a connection with the divine. I don't need to know why. So that's enough about how I do not connect with the divine. How do I connect with the divine? two things more than anything: nature and music. And just briefly, the nature that I've connected through, I've been so lucky over my life to work in national parks and to live in just the most beautiful places. Sedona, and we lived in Fresno before we moved to Humboldt County. And I remember a friend of ours, I don't remember his name, it was something Cloud, but he was in a yoga class, and he said, "Oh, you guys are from Sedona. Enlightenment, that's easy there. If you can find it in Fresno, California, then you've got something," right? So it's been in nature. The first time it happened to me, I was a young man. I was, or a boy actually, and traveling with my parents in Mount Rainier, and I laid down under a tree for whatever reason, and I had one of those mystical experiences that many of you may have also had in nature. And I don't know what happened, but I went back to my parents and my family, and I was forever changed, really. Something spoke to me, something came to me during that time, and it was just so powerful. It's happened a few other times, also in Sedona. But I want to encourage you all to find a spot, because the spot here in Humboldt County that I found, you know where it is? It's right here. It's right in these grounds. When I come here to do yard work and I come here with my dog and my son, I don't know why, but there's something about these grounds that I find it in. And if you want to try this, because we are so blessed to have the redwood trees so close to our doors, find a tree, one tree, and develop a connection with that tree. It can be in the park, it can be, wherever, and watch it grow over, a couple years. And when you need someone to listen to or talk to, go to that tree, and it's a really cool thing. Somebody mentioned to me one time. And then music, and I'm almost done here. Music has been an inspiration my whole life, and I wanted to mention, especially in this room, with Annette playing the piano, there's been times that I've been so touched and brought to tears. I'll never forget it. This was a couple years ago when Anthony was speaking on Kids These Days, and she played this song called, I think it's Team Spirit by Nirvana. I may be wrong. It blew me away, because I never would have thought to hear it on a grand piano. But it was just like the divine coming in and touching me through that piece and through that music. So, we're blessed to have her as well. So with that, and I know we have a meeting coming up soon, I wrote a quick piece and then maybe a quick joke, and then we'll be done. My folks taught me to kneel and pray. The priest tried to tell me what to say. The message was not always clear, especially if you identify as queer. I read Siddhartha as a kid and even tried following the Grateful Dead. I wore patchouli till I stank. And then I drank and drank and drank. A guardian angel introduced me to Bill W., who saved my life, although that made me lose my wife. How comforting is my higher power, bringing me inspiration while in the shower. I then got married in the church, divorced, broken, and left in a lurch. I'm learning now to break free, thanks in part to Anthony. My UU family I now hold dear. I pray this rant was fun to hear. Your reaction may be, holy cow. My response is, be here now. And you may be familiar with cones. That's the sound of one hand clapping. So I'd like to end with a cone/dad joke. It's knock, knock. God. To be continued. We come to the fellowship because we love what exists here. It's a living entity. and like all living things, needs nurture and sustenance. Its breath and heartbeat is
The wind.
is life itself, is only derived from its living component, us. For those with us online, and we're glad you are, there's a slide that provides options on how to contribute to Fellowship's financial health. For those here, for safety's sake, we're not passing the offering basket. So if you have to donate, so if you have a Venmo, and there's a little skew here on your program, you can do so that way. Or you may drop a check or cash into the basket, indicate the location as you depart today. Please make checks out to HUUF, and again, please drop those as you depart. As an opportunity to practice that spirit of art, generosity, this morning's offering will now be gratefully received as Annette Gurnee Hall bless us with music once again.
So we're grateful for all the gifts that were given and will be given today, both monetarily to sustain this fellowship and all that you all bring to create this community. I made a promise in the beginning to try to end on time, and here I am with a full story to tell and very little time. And that's always a good sign that you should just step outside of what you prepared and be present with what is. And that, in essence, is what I've learned. I feel like an old turtle today. I'll give you a little bit more because I want to quote a couple of wise sayings that changed my life. I was raised in a Christian household. My grandfather was a minister, so God was always, I mean, God just was, right? But I didn't even think about it. Prayed before the meal or before I went to sleep. But I do remember my first spiritual experience was when I woke up at 4 years old from my nap and from a dream. And I looked around and I thought, now, what's the difference between what I just was in and this? And I call that my first awakening. And it stayed with me, obviously. I'll be 78 this week. So that made a lasting impression. And then the next thing I think about was my freshman year in college. The first Saturday, I was making the bed with my roommates. We're all getting our beds ready. And one of the girls said, asked if anybody was going to church the next day, which got us talking about whether we believed in God. Hello, hello, wind and rain. See, I was right. It was going to rain today. And I said, oh, well, I do think Jesus was right, but I don't know what I think about God. And then I just, actually, another girl in the dorm where I was staying said at breakfast she was going to church. And so I decided to go with her. That girl's name was Ann Davis, and she turned out to be the sister of Dave Davis, who Dave and June Davis are longtime members of this fellowship. So coincidences I pay attention to. In any case, I went. And at the end of the sermon, I closed my eyes for the prayer, and I just felt myself being lifted up. Like, I mean, way up, like euphoric. And this was not a common experience for me in the Presbyterian Church. This was not talked about or taught. And that woke me up again. So these are sort of spiritual awe experiences, and a number of us have talked about them this morning, and that's important. Those are those breakthroughs to realize there's more than just this everydayness. But what sustains us? And what about that relationship? I still went along with this belief that there was somehow, and fear, frankly, that God was up there always watching me. This was being part of a minister's family, that God was watching me and I was going to get in trouble if I did the wrong thing. And that's not a warm relationship, and it actually sets me on edge. And so this thought that God is other, and we're all here, and we're separate from objects, and we're separate from life, and we're separate from each other, gets perpetrated by that idea that the divine is other than us. And it was a number of years later after I have to tell this part. I had that spiritual experience, and then it took me in a deep dive into Christianity. And one of the things that I did was in the summers, I did these social service projects. And I was on the Pima, it was called the Pima Reservation. It's a Hohokam Pima people in Arizona. And we were there to teach. And I began to realize there was something very wrong with this. And I got more and more uncomfortable with me as a white Christian coming into this community. And so I had been, though I'd been steeped in Christianity, I had sort of let others carry me along. And I had this crisis of conscience that I decided I would pray to that God that had lifted me up. I would pray. And so I closed my eyes and I asked for help. And I had this sense of the vastness of space. And I heard this laugh, this echo. There was nothing there. And so all this sense that somehow I'm special was gone. So I just decided to live my life according to the values that Jesus taught, because that's what I knew. They're good values and good Christian. If you look at who's doing the work in the community, a lot of them are coming out of those values. They're not unlike what we express as you use. I feel they're very synchronous. But that worked for a while until one day I was part of a collective natural food bakery in Uprisings, in Berkeley, called Uprisings Bakery. Power to the people. And one of the people invited me and said, hey, there's an ashram down the road in Emeryville, and we're going to go check it out. You want to come? I went, oh, okay, why not? And so that was the ashram of Swami Muktananda, who is was a Hindu Siddha Yoga guru. And I found myself resonating greatly with what he was saying. And I want to quote this because it changed my life. He said, "The creative power of this entire universe lies inside every one of us. The divine principle that creates and sustains the world pulsates within us as our own self." That God is other suddenly became God is one. And that, to live out of that, is the ultimate, for me, meant that all the inequities that are based on somebody's definition of how things are supposed to be were like just dropped aside. If the divine dwells in us as us, it's the same thing. I mean, we can talk about it in physics. It's the energy of the universe is everywhere. It never is lost, as my friend Timothy said the other day. It is here, and that's what the life is. The life force is that energy in us. At my age, I've seen and been with and experienced people around me who are dying and who have died. And the difference between what allows us to stand up to this heavy, heavy body, to be able to move and stand, and that which is our body when the spirit is gone is spirit. It's the spirit of life. The other thing that I learned from Muktananda and that tradition, and the Buddhist who I now have been drawn to, is that life force is consciousness. That's where consciousness is. It's not a function of our brains. And so if that life consciousness is in each of us, and that has been my experience, I can communicate with you, even though you're very different. You think differently, you use different language. We've all used different language, but we're all pointing at the same thing. And the reason we can do that is because that consciousness is in all of us. And what my big question, as my next big awakening, will be into the next after I die. I'm 78. My friends are dying. I know that it is here, but living out of this possibility, and that's what we have to do. We don't hold on to a belief, we explore it. We try it on, we walk with it. If this part we think we understand and we live it out and it doesn't seem to be true, we don't go, oh, well, then there is no God, or this is wrong. I look at myself. Now, is that my ego who doesn't like that? Or did I make a mistaken assumption? It's a constant, that's the relationship. It's a relationship between my own understanding and my own experience and the wisdom I receive and what's revealed to me in those moments. Under the tree, so true that you were under the tree, so is Buddha. It makes sense to stop. And that's the practice. That's the cultivation. Stop. Sit. Listen. Open. Open. If you have a question, then open and sit and listen. And my experience is it doesn't come in words. It comes in through the breathing together with the silence. They talk about the breath of life. That's why in the practices of Buddhism and yoga, you sit, you still yourself, you quiet your mind, There's a wonderful bumper sticker. Don't believe everything you think. It's really important because thoughts, if you really sit in stillness and open, thoughts will go through. Just let them go through. Feelings arise. They go through. They aren't fixed unless we hold on to them. Then they get fixed. Those are the obstacles. When we open up, when we let it go, that is that oneness. And that oneness can then come, because it's conscious, can come into our consciousness. That's what this old turtle has learned. And I pass it on in hopes that you'll explore this more. There are wonderful teachers all around, including our new minister, including members of spiritual traditions in other parts of this community. Be humble enough to realize that they are a gift to us. This is the way the divine speaks to us. It offers us this. So our part is to accept it and open to it, be grateful for it, be honest with it. I still get really angry at all the suffering. I do. And I let this, I don't know why life is the way it is, but as the Buddhists say, suffering just is. It's one of the noble truths. But boy, isn't that what every religion on the planet has to wrangle with? And all of us have to come to terms with. And what I've learned is in that sitting with what is and feeling what it feels like, the grief and sadness that is honest when we've lost a loved one or we've lost a capacity in ourselves or whatever it is, stay with the feeling. Let it be. Don't hold on to it. And it will change. And we'll know in a knowing way that only comes in that way. So I leave you with that. And as we close the service, just want to remind you to stay socially distanced. And in the future, we are going to be staying inside. We're going to be here more often. So it's going to be very important that you all sign up before you come. So we have room for everybody. And as we close, I will extinguish the chalice. And a light of remembrance with love that goes out with these words. We receive fragments, no wait, and now, yes. Oh, so many words. We receive fragments of holiness, glimpses of eternity, brief moments of insight. Let us gather them up as the precious gifts that they are, and renewed by their grace, move boldly into the unknown, knowing we are not alone. And now as Annette plays our final song, Go From Here in Peace, Go in Love, without actually touching, and all of you at home in your between the boxes, will you stretch out your hands to one another in spirit as we share that spirit is in all of us. Go from here in peace. Go in love. Shalom, salam alaikum, blessed be, namaste, ashte, aho, amen. Love you all.